Happy Friday, Bills Mafia. Welcome to yet another episode of the Friday Night Forecast. I'm your host, Travis Blakesley, and tonight we got the usual suspects. We got Herm, the Nostradamus, the Buffalonian, with that 38-point prediction. How you doing, Herm?
I'm doing great. I love that game Sunday night. Go Bills.
And Mr. Evan Zinger, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
Good to see you guys. Well, for the uninitiated, the Friday Night Forecast here, we like to break down the upcoming game. We're going to give you our predictions, our takes, and it's not only about us because we'd like to hear your predictions. So if you would be so kind to leave some in the comments, whether it's stat related, even score predictions, anything, you get your thoughts read on air. So as always, like, subscribe, and share. You can always check us out at a later date on any of the audio podcast platforms of your choice. But let's dive right into last week's game. This was a performance we were all hoping for the last two rounds. The Buffalo Bills had a convincing victory over the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think there were a lot of people who got their feelings hurt, whether it was national media or Kansas City Chiefs fans themselves. I think the first guy I would love to get into would be Mr. Dawson Knox and his ascension. Herm, has this man turned the corner, and can we expect him to be one of the top tight ends in the league?
Well, he's shown so far this season. He's leading the league in touchdowns for tight ends, and I think after he went to the tight end U that off season, he always was pretty athletic, but he had a tendency to drop some balls that were very catchable in the past. But this year he's made some super duper catches, and he's given Josh that option away from our wideouts and from Beasley in the slot, which now he's become a formidable weapon, and teams have to pay attention to him. I thought about him today when I heard about the Zach Ertz trade to the Cardinals, and you remember in the offseason that was a point of contention, and people were saying, "Oh, we should go for him." The Bills, we needed a tight end, but right about now, Knox is, as you said, he's ascending, and I think he's only going to get better. So I'm loving where he's at right now.
Yeah, I can't disagree there. Shout out to JD. Hello from 34,000 feet over in Manitoba. Look at that. Your far neighbor, Evan. So, Evan, your thoughts on Dawson Knox and his future going forward?
Well, I've seen, I saw a tweet today of
yes, get into it, please. Get into it.
Yes. Calling him a top 5 tight end. It's no, not hold your horses on that.
Exactly. Hold your horses.
There's based on either recent track record or performance this year. There's a lot of, well, I won't say a lot. There's a decent amount of tight ends I would take over Knox. Even some tight ends who haven't gotten off to fantastic starts this year, I might still take over them. But you have I can just name 5 really quickly, being Waller, Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Dalton Schultz. From Dallas, I absolutely love. And of course you got young guys like Kyle Pitts, who had a fantastic game last week as well. By terms of his progression, I've really liked what I've seen from Knox. I just hope that he can keep it up over more than just this 5-game stretch, particularly because, we always talk about strength of competition. Daniel Sorensen, in my honest opinion, is probably the worst defensive starter in the entire league. So he's not going to be facing Daniel Sorensens every week. So let's just see how he continues to do, and hopefully he can continue to be this consistent player.
Yeah, I mean, it's like feast or famine with this guy. Either he needs to get cut, or you got people out there clamoring for him to be a top 5 tight end. I'm right there with you. I think he is progressing nicely. I think it's no coincidence that he's ascending in his third year, and as Herm, you mentioned, going to tight end U. It was very interesting that he didn't give his jersey to Kelsey. They didn't swap. He said no for some reason. I'm not quite sure the backstory on that, but I'm sure there'll be many more. Do you know, Evan? Do you know if there's any reason?
No. Did you see, actually sticking on with the jersey swap, did you see, I think it was, I can't remember who the other person was getting swapped, but did you see the clip of Vita Vea struggling to get his jersey off when he was trading last night?
But
yeah, I'll send it to you after this. But yeah, he's like, because, you know, the guy's like freaking 500 pounds, and he's like struggling to get his jersey off over his.
Well, that, and they're like shrink wrap to these guys, and it was hard. You know, it was hard when I played, and they were much looser fitting. Now they're just like little spandex. So I think Isaiah McKenzie trying to get his off, and he's just, you know, his arms can't even reach up to his shoulder. But yeah, so Dawson Knox, another formidable weapon, and as Herm mentioned, somebody who's taking some snaps away from Cole Beasley. And if you're losing snaps due to great production, I'm all for it. You know, you got to get game plan specific, and we'll see how that goes forward. Now, transitioning to the guy who was throwing him the ball, Josh Allen. What a performance! Now, this is one of the performances where you look at the completion percentage, you look at the amount of actual completions he had, and you know, the distribution of the ball. I think like everyone outside of Knox only had like a handful of receptions. So, you know, looking at it on paper outside of the touchdowns and the yards, it's one of those games where Bills Mafia will complain about because they want all the numbers. But we didn't hear anything of that this week. Herm, do you think this could be Josh Allen's signature performance of his young career?
Well, he had 4 throws over, I think, 30 to 35 yards, 15 completions for 315 yards, but he was accurate. I mean, he did have an interception that we had the roughing the quarterback on, which would have taken away from would have reduced his QBR ultimately. And also,
which saved you. It saved you personally.
Yeah, it did save me. It did save me. But overall, I mean, he was fantastic. Combining his throwing and his running, he ran the ball. The design runs this is one of the first games where I liked some of the design runs they had. We were pulling guards. Mitch Morse was pulling on one of the runs as well, so we pulled guards and the center. And he ran the ball well. He ran the ball, and he ran the ball looking very, very. He looked like a running back on a couple of the plays, and you add that to his ability to throw the ball. I think it was one of his best performances since he's been a Bill, and I just hope he can continue it moving forward because he was outstanding.
He gave you everything that Josh Allen brings to the table, all in one nice little game package.
Yeah.
I loved if you noticed, Daboll went back to a lot of 2018 play calls. There was a lot more big men in the game. Gilliam had over 20 snaps. Sweeney was in there a lot, and there was so many more designed runs. And I just think he executed them perfect. He got down when he needed to. He went for the extra yardage when it was necessary, and he held on to the football. So, Evan, do you have anything to add on to what Herm said? And do you believe this was one of his best performances as a Bill?
Oh, absolutely. The thing about like the stat line and everything, the play calling, all of that it almost perfectly summed up Allen as a player in general. Like, you know, obviously the completion percentage isn't going to be insanely high because his depth of target was further down the field. But just looking at that number, you're like, okay, it's not insanely high. That's very Josh Allen. Well, at least that was his reputation before last year. And then like he has a bunch of throws that are like 20 plus yards down the field. And then you have a bunch of designed runs for him. And he's always has to have a couple plays where, regardless of how well designed they are, he's running around kind of looking like a chicken with his head cut off. And honestly, like it was just a game that was just fun to watch him play, because as And I agree to your point that it did look a lot like 2018 style of play calling. Obviously the design runs and then creating those 20-plus yard chunk plays that just happen to also go for touchdowns as well, and even go further than, just 20, 30, even 40 yards when it comes to the Knox one near the end of the first half. And I mean, I know Bills fans don't exactly care for them, but for what it's worth, this was according to PFF, this was Josh Allen's highest graded game in his entire career.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and it goes to show that sometimes you can't just look in the stat column, because your eyes did not lie on Sunday night. He rose to the occasion. There's a handful of specifically night games. It's no coincidence, I guess. Now, it's a trend where you can just see it in his eyes from the start of the game. It reminded me a lot of the New England game, although less efficient, and a lot of the San Francisco game where bullets were flying, but he dealt with it in the first quarter. And there were, not that there was a ton of adversity this week, but you saw him calm down, and the offense as a whole. There's a third quarter lull, and I'm just glad that we're not talking about, last year that got beat to death where it was third quarter. It didn't seem to affect the game. And I think the main reason was the defense. I mean, that's the difference between this year and last year in most of these games. So moving on to the defense, I mean, there isn't a better defense in the league. We lead on most significant categories. Herm, is this something that we can sustain going forward, especially if you look at the caliber of teams we're playing in the remaining season?
Yeah, I think that, well, in my opinion right now, I agree with you that I feel our defense is, if not the best defense in the league, we're in the top 2 or 3. But our back 7, the front 4 they did a great job of, for the most part, of keeping Mahomes in the pocket. I remember one time when he had about 7 or 8 seconds to throw, but he couldn't get out. We had 7 men in the coverage, and ultimately ended up, I think the pass was deflected by Hyde, by one of our safeties. But I think the defense right now, we got Milano will be coming back. Klein did a great job. Our linebackers are playing well. Our defensive backfield has been outstanding. Even the guys coming in off the bench, our reserves, I love the way that they're even rotating on that defensive line. And our young guys, Rousseau, Defensive Player of the Week, second week in a row, we've had the Defensive Player of the Week with our young. I mean, we had Edmonds, and then we got a rookie. So
third week in a row that we've had just a Player of the Week in general. Because Josh was
true.
the week before. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But defensively, I think I'm psyched. It could, because I've been waiting for 2-3 years for both the offense and the defense to be playing at about the same level. But our defense is playing. I feel that, as you said, they're the difference. They are the difference.
We've been waiting 25 years for the offense and defense to play together.
Yeah.
If we're really being honest about it. I mean, the Bills have always had a good defense and a decent running game. They just couldn't throw the ball. And then we start throwing the ball, and then we couldn't stop anybody.
Well, in 2004, there was a pretty good offense and defense.
They
decided
half the year.
Half the year.
Yeah, and then they just decided to not, show up against the Steelers backups, which I will never forget. But
so I guess the 25
the conception
is right.
of Willie Parker.
Because you guys are younger than me, so I do. There is a time when our offense and defense were both high-powered for a while. So, but that was a little bit before your time.
Well, I was just gearing up to understanding football, and it was like I'm here, and I'm the meme where it's like, where'd the football go? What's going on here?
That's right.
Shout out to Saran Neal. I loved, regardless of how he rated, regardless of the penalties, I thought he did exactly what he was. He was just a little pit bull out there, just hitting, pushing, getting that early contact on Kelsey, which is huge, because on Kelsey's one big catch, he was untouched off the line of scrimmage, and that really, I mean, that says it all to me. It's like, you got to bump these guys. And also shout out to Taron Johnson, who's, playing out of his mind this year. He, he got benched last year because of his performance against the Chiefs. And now, he's just playing on a completely other level. It's,
another
just
contract.
a whole year. Yeah, exactly. But a whole year, it just, Bills Mafia, sometimes we just need to relax. They can develop, they can get better. And, I wasn't always his biggest fan, and I wasn't sure he'd be on the roster, but big shout out to Taron Johnson and his play. Evan, do you think this is a sustainable defense, the way that they're playing? I know the turnovers may not be, but overall.
Well, I was just going to mention the turnovers, because the main thing I think with this defense is, like the amount of turnovers they have is contributing a lot to their success. But they are also stopping teams on like fourth down, doing routine things like getting them off the field on 3rd and long, because before you might have that occasional one where it's like, okay, they had no business converting this play, but they still did. The only thing I pointed out to a couple people in the Chiefs game is that, people are going to say and people have said about how great the defense played because they had 3 turnovers. Was it 3? Yeah, it was 3 turnovers. I really wish there was a stat that was like forced turnovers, because you separate the good defenses from the bad ones when you can see how well they create their own luck potentially, or how well they just play on their own without hoping that the other team is going to screw up. Because, like, for example, in the Chiefs game, you had the one Mahomes interception went right off Tyreek Hill's hands. That's not really a good defensive play. Thankfully, Hyde was right there to catch it and take it back to the house. But and
he may have felt the footsteps a little, potentially. But I hear what you're saying. He should have caught the ball.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I think Hyde was like right there, so he would have tackled him and stopped him anyways. But wouldn't have been a pick six though.
No.
And then of course the Mahomes fumble was just a snap that went right through his hands. Like that's nothing the defense did.
That's not on us.
And then obviously great play by Rousseau for his interception. Even though that one. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you can't blame Mahomes, or of course you guys aren't blaming Mahomes for anything because he's the perfect quarterback and yada yada. But legitimately that one is not on Mahomes at all. That's just Rousseau being damn good.
Exactly.
Which is what I like to see, because 99% of the time those balls just they get batted and they hit the dirt.
Right.
So
we're not even touched. Too,
frankly, yeah, or because the blame on that play goes on the right tackle Niang for Kansas City because he didn't engage it properly.
Yeah,
it's a bold move to try to block a guy like Rousseau up high when a guy's running, when you're trying to do a quick little out pass.
Yeah, that definitely didn't look good on film for him.
No,
it was a lazy. It was like, okay, this is going to be a quick throw, so I don't have to do much. Little did he know this guy's got condor wings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the defense. Hats off. I thought the defense was more telling in this. Although it was great to see the offense perform because they didn't in the last 2 meetings. Herm, the last question I want to ask you before we move on to this week's game is what does this win mean for the Bills? They always say it's the next game. It's just one game, and we all know it's kind of nonsense. What do you think, whether it's in the standings or just psychologically, what does this mean for the Bills?
Well, it means a great deal. First of all, I've been saying, and I know a bunch of Bills Mafia after our losses last year in the regular season and ultimately in the championship game, was that the roadblock for us in the AFC would be Kansas City, just by virtue of the fact that you had Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey, and they're pretty young. Their team is pretty young, and they beat us twice. So now we had an opportunity to play them in the regular season, and they needed that game from a scheduling standpoint, if you want to call it that, because that's their third loss in the conference in week 5. So we were 3-1. We would have been 3-2 had we lost. But from a psychological standpoint, I think you could see it in the offense and the defense that we wanted that game, and I felt there a metric for us to cross was to beat Kansas City. And last year we lost to Kansas City and Tennessee back to back, and now we've got Tennessee coming up. So I feel like the Kansas City game, there was exhilaration in Bills Mafia, and it was rightfully so because we vanquished them and we look really, really good doing it. So you can see the media across the spectrum, the print media, the television media, the online media. Now all of a sudden, the Bills, I think we felt that way. We're biased, very biased, but I think we've gained the attention.
Objectively,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Evan, do you think this has any? Let's say they lost this game. Do you think that outside of seeding or anything like that, do you think that it would have made a difference in the overall, production of this team and success of it?
I would say it probably wouldn't have. It just would have gotten people down on the team for the foreseeable future or like the near future, especially because the upcoming schedule or like this 2-game set right here, it's probably the hardest like back-to-back set of the entire season. So I'd say, obviously, like if you lost to Kansas City, I would say you have a higher likelihood than the average team you're playing throughout the year that you'll lose to Tennessee. So in a world where you lose both those games, the Bills are at 500,
right?
And it's like, even though they're really better than their record, 500's factually average, and it just doesn't feel as good,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much there with you. I just wanted to give this little update by Backbone shout out. He said Knox didn't give it his jersey because it was his first 100-yard game, which makes sense. But enough of last week. It's in the books. We don't have to talk about it anymore. I know
that was a fun game.
Yeah,
it was a fun game.
It was a great game. I think I lost my voice at halftime, Herm.
Yeah, we got to watch the game. We got to watch the game.
I watched it. Yeah, we watched it at Herm's place. So now I have to go back next week. I got to leave the Hermit Shell and go to Herman's house.
Actually, I do have one thing I'd like to add.
Sure.
And maybe you two can comment on this. I don't know. I really liked how, because of the weather delay, they essentially played 2 different games when you think about it like that,
yes.
Because the gap in between was so long. Either 2 different games or a Super Bowl halftime show. You could either do one or the other. That would be nice.
The New Orleans one.
Yes. But it really impressed me how, because I remember watching the game, the Bills are 28 to 13 at halftime. And then the weather delay comes, and regardless of how well the Bills have been in recent years, there's always that little voice in the back of my head that goes, Kansas City's going to come out of the half and they're going to score like 30 points, aren't they?
You and the rest of us.
Yeah. So I was really impressed with the fact that they were able to come out and still be as good as they were before the half.
Yeah.
Herm, what you got to add to that?
They were focused. I mean, we had to kill, as Travis said, we were together. So we had to kill that time during that, but we were also fretting, waiting for the other shoe to drop, as you just said, Evan. But they came out.
There's no way it helped us.
Right. Because you cooled down, you're just sitting around. You remember they were complaining about the peanut butter sandwiches and how hot it was in the locker room. And some of the guys were sitting in the tunnel. I think they showed them on television just to stay cool. But they did stay cool. They came out and then they continued doing what they did. I mean, we had that lull, as you said earlier, in the third quarter. But all in all, the defense, as Travis said earlier, the defense allowed us to put our foot down and and the offense came, made some plays, and we finished the job. So that was a good point, Evan, because that could have been a huge distraction and it gave them an opportunity to regroup if you wanted to, Kansas City, because they had to be they were shocked. They were shell shocked after that first half because Josh.
Obviously, you can't predict. You can predict the weather, but obviously you can't like necessarily foresee like a weather delay coming in that regard.
Yeah, right.
And whether it was luck or strategy, I don't know. But low key, a really good decision was made at the beginning of the game when McDermott decided to give Kansas City the ball first, and then particularly the defense holding them to 3 points on that first drive, because if the offense comes right out and scores a touchdown, it can be really discouraging for the rest of the game. But the fact that they held them to those 3 points, there's that long weather delay, and then it's like, oh, we get the ball back too.
Right.
Like I'm
and
sure
a large
that
amount of fans left too.
yes.
So
Yeah.
it's always quiet coming out of halftime, and then people leave. I mean, it's always a good idea. I don't know, outside of weather specifics and choosing like the direction of the wind, I don't know. I would never really take the ball. I like getting it at halftime, and I'm glad that seems to kind of be there.
I was that guy back playing like Madden like 9 or like 2000, where I'd always kick, and my friends would be like, "Dude, what the hell? Why wouldn't you take the ball first?"
Yeah, I want to double up on those points, baby.
I'm doubling up. Yeah. I was like 4 at the time, and I still knew about that. Yeah.
Good for you, little Evan, growing up right. All right, so let's get into this week's matchup against the Tennessee Titans. The injury report. The Bills are healthy. The Titans are a little more healthy than they were, but they haven't been healthy all season. It looks like the only person who's really in doubt, and probably not necessarily, he might play, is Tywan Jones, because I believe he didn't practice last week and he played. As far as the Titans, and remember, this is technically Thursday's report, because everyone pushed their practice back a day. So you'll get your quote unquote Friday report tomorrow. That's the big one. And I forgot, Matt Milano's limited practice, so that was good. They got a ton of, Caleb Farley, Christian Fulton, both cornerbacks. Farley has an illness, and they haven't really talked about it. Fulton has a hamstring, so those are ones that, are tough to really gauge. A big one, in my opinion, their best offensive lineman, Roger Saffold, didn't practice with a shoulder injury, which is, again, that's huge pertaining to his position. Taylor Lewan has been hurt all season, and when he's played, he's looked pretty bad. I think he's very overrated, but we'll get into that. And then the two big ones, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, both full practices, but they have soft tissue injuries, hamstring. So who knows? This is a team that's just they haven't been cohesive, and a lot of it probably has to do with their injuries. The weather report, which has played a big factor in the last two games, it's going to be clear and cool. They're expecting low 50s. If it was a day game, it would be sunny, but clearly, the sky will be clear. Now moving into the opponent themselves, we'll start on the offensive side of the ball. The Titans are scoring 26.4 points per game, which is 10th in the league, 167 rush yards per game, which is 3rd. So that's pretty much their MO right there. 221 passing yards per game. That's 26th in the league. And they're completing third down at a rate of 38.6. This is a team that has a new offensive coordinator. Arthur Smith was a huge part in their success last year. And is it a coincidence that their offense has not been passing the ball well under new offensive coordinator Todd Downing? Who knows? That's remained to be seen. The interesting thing about Todd Downing is that he was actually a Bills quarterback coach in 2014. I did not know that prior. But again, this is a team that's going to beat you. It's going to have a steady dose of Henry. I mean, he's on pace to shatter his rushing attempts, and he's been run a lot in years past. They are successful when they do use play action, but they haven't used it all that often compared to last year. The team really relies on that power run game to set up the play action, but we haven't seen much of it this year. Herm, why don't you get into the offensive passing game specifically?
Well, you got Tannehill's about a 60. He's 64% completion rate, but as you said, they're not using, or it hasn't been as effective, their play action. Derrick Henry, as you said 2 games ago, he carried the ball for 33 times, which is amazing. But he's averaging really 4.5 yards per carry. His season on the season, he's had like, I think around 600, just over 600 yards rushing in 5 games, and that's skewed because you remember the one game he had he had a huge game. Out of the backfield, the second best receiver for them has been Chester Rogers, who's gotten 13. He's caught 13 balls. Every receiver he's got caught 13 balls at just about 14 yards per catch. Julio Jones, he was hurt a little earlier, so he's really only played 3 full games. Julio's had 12 catches, averaging 17 a catch when he does get it. A.J. Brown, as you said, he's been kind of injured. He's surprising because he's only caught 10 balls in 5 games, and he's averaging about 13 yards per catch. Jeremy McNichols now 17 receptions coming out of the backfield, which is something we should really watch for. Now he's been averaging about 9.5 yards a catch with 17 catches. So for a running back coming out of the backfield, it seems like he's getting a lot of balls.
Got a little James White in him.
Yeah. So offensively, as you said, Derrick Henry is carrying the ball a lot, but 4.5 yards a carry is I'm going to say mediocre. They say if you gain 4 yards a carry, you're doing pretty well, but 4.5 yards a carry for him and the perception of him is he hasn't been a world beater this year, and they've been using him a lot.
Yeah, the term I coined for Henry is he is the Muhammad Ali of running backs, because he rope-a-dopes you. He gets nothing. Third and fourth quarter, this dude, he'll unleash. He'll lull you to sleep, and then I've had him on my fantasy team the last 2 years. This year, I didn't really want him because I felt like he was going to fall off. But I'll check at halftime, and he's got nothing, and then I come back, and he's got 30-something points. It's unbelievable, and to just jump on your point before I swing it over to you, Evan. Henry has not been productive against Buffalo. In the last few meetings, 2020, he had 19 attempts for 57 yards, 2019, 20 attempts for 78 yards, in 2018, 11 attempts for 56 yards. He wasn't really, he didn't take over because remember, he was this guy where they weren't like starting him right away. It was very odd. He had like an interesting start to his career.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it was a second round pick, right? So
yeah, but he was a freak, so it was odd. Like I thought he might have been a bust, up until his explosion. But
right.
Little
Evan,
did you know it was him busting through every single defensive line.
Good one. What do you got on this offense?
So I'm just checking right now, and I think one of the big points, and Kenny just brought it up in the chat, is the amount of pressure that they've been the Tennessee Lions giving up this year. Obviously, Lawan's been hurt. Saffold is a much better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. As a collective unit, they're much better at run blocking. Ben Jones hasn't been quite as good as he's been. Nate Davis is pretty bad, like Cody Ford bad. So yeah.
So is Quessenberry.
Oh yeah, and Quessenberry. Yeah. Did was he the one who had cancer at one point? Because if he did, I'm surprised. I'm surprised they don't bring it up every single damn second.
I think we'll find out Monday if that's the case.
Yeah. If only he was a running back like James Conner.
Yes.
But Ryan Tannehill in particular is a guy who's absolutely great out of the play action. And because the pass blocking has been so bad, they haven't been running as much play action. I believe. I don't think it's a Downing thing. I don't think it's a particular change. Just that they realize that they don't have the time to let play action develop. And Tannehill last year had play action on had the highest percentage of his snaps be play action passes out of any other quarterback. Allen was third. Allen's at 7th this year, so not a huge drop for him, but Tannehill's down to 16th this year. And yeah, like I said, I don't think that's a downing thing. I think that's just the line's been so bad that you're not going to have a time to get the full motion to develop. And in particular, that's if the Bills can generate pressure, that's going to be a big key because, again, it's PFF grade. Take it for what you will. But Tannehill has the second biggest gap in grade when throwing from a clean pocket compared to under pressure. So from a clean pocket, he's got a grade of 95, but when he's under pressure, he's got a grade of 48. So it's a pretty big gap right there. Yeah.
I was watching, I think I watched 4 of the games, and there were strong vibes of Tannehill in Miami. Just eyes caught downfield, oblivious to what's going on around him. And like you said, if he's not on the run, that's why I think the play action was so beneficial, because a lot of the play action were boots, and he beat us really badly on running and throwing out of the boot action. But I saw a ton of those Mario Williams type sacks where he would just get engulfed very early on in the progression when he's reading down field. And I mean, 20 sacks, and it's, we're going into week 6. It's alarming. One stat I wanted to throw out, backup left tackle Tyson Barlow retired this week. So I guess he's tired of getting beat up. He was a guy that was kind of running on the field a lot when Luan, he used Luan's backup. And, there's a handful of games where he was playing, but I guess he wasn't too fond of that anymore. So he's no longer in the league.
Retired.
I didn't clue in for a second because I wasn't aware of the player you were talking about. And I'm like, who the heck is Tyson Barlow? And I heard it as Tyson Barlow. And I'm like, who the heck is that? I'm like, oh yeah. His first name is just Ty. Yeah.
Ty, yeah. But we won't have to worry about him. So
no.
Moving on to the defense. Overall, giving up 26 points per game, which is 24th in the league, 113 rushing yards per game, which is 21st, 264 yards through the air, 21st. They only have 10 sacks on the season, which is 17th. And their third down conversion rate is 20th in the league. So their identity, they really don't have any because they haven't been healthy at all. I mean, you got guys like Bud Dupree, who was a free agent signing, who really hasn't moved the needle too much. I know he was injured. Their secondary has been in shambles. I know they have a good safety in Kevin Byard. But outside of that, I mean, Simmons is a good player at defensive tackle, and Harold Landry is a solid pass rusher, but they just really haven't been able to do much. And to be quite frankly, it's surprising because the last 2 years under a defensive coach like Vrabel, it's very surprising how bad they've been. Herm, what do you got on this Titans defense?
Well, it's interesting because I took a look earlier, and of the top 11 players for tackles, solo tackles, there's only one defensive lineman in the top 11, and that's Simmons, as you just mentioned. But you have Long, David Long, Harold Landry, Evans, Janoris Jenkins. You got cornerbacks, and Byard had 19 solo tackles along with their linebackers. So obviously teams are getting to the second level. They're making a lot of tackles in that back seven. There's only, as I said, Simmons is the only one of their defensive line that's in the top 11 players in terms of solo tackles. And Landry's had 4.5 sacks, but they've only had 10 all season. So I'm surprised too, because Vrabel is he's a defensive guy, and his defenses have played well at Tennessee. but from the way it appears, you're getting to that second level, and you're forcing their linebackers and their deep. They have 3 DBs that have 18, 16, and 19 solo tackles. So
that's a problem.
Yeah, it's very problematic, right? And I mean, to have only 1 D lineman within your top 11 tacklers is problematic as well. So hopefully it's a portent of things to come Monday night for us.
Yeah. This is a secondary which the Bills should be able to take advantage of. They run a lot of zone, and you can, maybe this will be the return of Cole Beasley to sitting down in between the zone. But we will see. Evan, what do you have on the Tennessee defense?
I will say that it will be interesting to see how the Bills use Knox this week, because the Titans safeties could not be any more different, really. Byard is arguably the best safety in the league right now, and Bradley McDougald exists.
He's one-dimensional, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I guess depending on who they decide to cover Knox with, if it's Fitzgerald, or not, why did I say Fitzgerald? If it's McDougald, I can see Knox having another big game. Inspired, probably not, but and honestly, I think your entire secondary just deserves to get completely discounted if you have one of your starters go by the name Jackrabbit. the former Janoris Jenkins, now known as Jackrabbit Jenkins.
Yeah. He, in my notes under Janoris Jenkins, I just wrote has been. And that's it. It's like one of those guys, even like to the exact antithesis of him, Cordell Patterson. Like when I saw him, and you look at his stats, like, first of all, I can't believe he's still in the league and he's playing at this level. It's like, have we just been using Cordell Patterson wrong this whole time?
Running back, right?
Out of the backfield. Anyway,
sorry, I did get McDougald's name mixed up. I meant to say Cruikshank, not McDougald.
Dane Cruikshank.
Right? Yeah. I'm like, crap. I felt like I was saying something wrong there, but
it's all right.
Yeah,
McDougald sounds better.
It does. Yeah.
All right, matchups. Herm, what's one of the whether it's a key or just an interesting matchup? What are you looking forward to on Monday night?
Well, the thing that jumps out to me when you think about Tennessee, and you talked about, is Derrick Henry. They have to get him going, and some type of run game, at least to take our focus off, to make us respect that run. As you said, he hasn't ran wild on us, and I don't want it to happen Monday night. So our defensive line has really, they've been pretty stout, and against the run game, we've done well. And he hasn't in past performances had super duper games as he's had. I guess the one thing he's remembered for with Buffalo is tossing Josh Norman to the ground. And you see
on
that
a play
video.
That didn't count.
Exactly. You see that video all the time. They actually interviewed McDermott. I saw McDermott interviewed earlier today, and they asked McDermott, what does he think about that the Derrick Henry play? And he says, hey, we just see it all the time on TV, but Monday night's a new game. And I think that was the best way to
props to Norman for trying to tackle him. We've seen
not the smartest approach to it, but
the way his technique was
a little high.
So
sorry to interrupt. Continue. Aaron.
No, that's okay. We shut him down, and we forced Tannehill into a passing game. And you made the comment earlier that shades of Miami. You remember when he was at the Dolphins, and he was with
boy, do I.
When he was with quarterback Whisperer, who went to the Jets. So
crazy eyes.
Yeah. So if we shut him down, I think we have a real good opportunity, and we'll come up with my score later on to shut down that Titan offense. We'll get there.
Evan, what matchup are you looking forward to in this contest?
I don't really have a goofy one this week. Turns out my matchup ended up succeeding pretty well for the Bills. because Chris Jones succumbed to his wrist for that week, and I guess he's out this week. I guess he's out this week as well. But probably my main matchup is going to be Levi Wallace versus whoever they're going to line up against him, it probably AJ Brown, I would imagine.
Sure, we'll get a taste of both for sure.
Yeah. Let's see if he can, because I wouldn't expect, as much as I like Wallace, I wouldn't expect him to lock either of them down. So let's just see how well he can contain both of them and hopefully not give up any of those, any big chunk plays.
Yeah. He didn't even play last time, right? It was just Norman.
No.
It was
Norman and Lewis. Those are the top two. Both White
it was
and Wallace
Norman, Lewis, and then they had
right.
Marlowe playing big nickel.
Yeah,
they had 3 safeties on the field. That game was horrible.
Yeah,
it was a horrible game.
It was just so frustrating to watch.
And then we were of course, we were pissed off because of the whole, COVID thing, and then had to prepare for 2 teams in a week and all that. Like it was. Yeah.
And then I had to rush. I had to make up some excuse so I could leave work to get home to watch the game.
Oh gosh! And then you get home and watch the game, and you're like, I wish I stayed at work.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then I did the same thing the next week because it was like 5 o'clock on Monday.
5 o'clock. Yeah, 5 o'clock game.
It's like this is really messing with my schedule. I was gonna. Mine was a little different, but I was gonna go with the physicality of the Buffalo defensive backs versus these top wide receivers. But since you already, you went with a cornerback, I'm gonna say Allen versus the zone defense on prime time. I mentioned at the top how it last week reminded me of the San Francisco game, and I can see a lot more of that where, you get the David Salah just looking up to the sky, wondering when this game is going to be over. Could there be intervention? I expect Josh Allen to pick this defense apart. I know last year when we were in it in the third quarter, we were driving, and then Allen got played on one of the coverages where he threw that interception down the sideline. And I firmly believe if we scored on that, we could have gotten ourselves back into the game. But my matchup I'm looking forward to is Josh Allen versus that zone coverage on prime time specifically. Moving on, I added a new segment, stat of the game. So basically, we're just going to get just one stat that we can put our stamp on and call out that we think is going to happen. So Herm, why don't you lead us off?
The stat of the game. The stat of the game is going to be. I have a feeling that Diggs is going to go over 100 yards.
You dog. Give me something specific so we can.
Oh, you want specific?
Wager. Yeah, I want it down to the yard and anything else.
I think Diggs, because his brother's been getting it. They've been talking about his brother all week, so I think this and Josh. I've always felt that's his security blanket. So I think Diggs will go for 150 yards in receiving this game.
Any touchdowns?
1.
All right, Evan.
1.
This one pleases me. This one pleases me very much to predict. Isaiah McKenzie gets his first touchdown of the year.
Hell yeah, little dirty. Let's go. I hope you're right. He's kind of just disappeared, and I'm certainly not an Isaiah McKenzie hater. I'm a big fan of the guy. But the reason why I called you a dog, Herm, is because my stat of the game is Stephon Diggs, 135 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Oh, really? So you're going to go with it? You're going? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Trying to one-up each other on how well Bills players, that's a good thing. Yeah.
I got 15 more yards and 1 less touchdown. All right, okay.
Wow, Herm, you're such a hater.
Well, you called me Nostradamus in the introduction. You remember you called me Nostradamus in the introduction. So.
You did. Yeah, I did. Excuse me.
I was reading your mind.
Well, the thing is, usually I have a backup, but this one I was like, no, this is one prediction out of 22 players. It could be anything. So next time I'll come up with a backup. All right, fellas, it's the time to get to our keys to victory. Herm, give us your number 1 key to victory on offense.
On offense, it's Josh doesn't turn the ball over. That's the key to victory. If we play a clean game, I think, as you said, that He will.
Why
I'm
is this on
reading.
mute? Sorry. Oh,
No, yeah, that's good. You can hear me.
There you go.
Yeah. I think if we have a clean game, if we don't turn the ball over, that we're going to win, and we should win convincingly. So, and that comes down to the turn. I mean, I'm looking if Josh doesn't turn the ball over, as you said last year, that interception he threw, and I remember it distinctly because I thought we had an opportunity to come back there, and even though we didn't play well. I mean, all the uncertainty involved with the game because of COVID, and there was a whole bunch of variables that took place that brought a lot of uncertainty preparation. It was tough to prepare for that game. So we've had an opportunity now for we got 8 days after that Sunday night game, and if Josh doesn't turn the ball over and we play a nice clean game, I think we can win convincingly.
Evan?
I'm going to say the main key to victory will be the usage of the secondary receivers against the Titans secondary. Mainly because I am curious right now as to who Byard is going to play on. So whether that be Knox as tight end, whether they'll have him cover a receiver or have him follow around. They probably won't have him follow around Singletary or Moss because they're running backs. But I would just like to see how play goes away from him. And I think if Allen can exploit basically everywhere else in that secondary and make sure Byard is as far away from the direction of his pass as possible, I think he can succeed.
I like it. For me, I'm going to say confuse and exploit this ragtag group of defenders. There's something that you lose outside of just talent when you get your backups in, and that's cohesion. And this defense is very out of sync with each other. I think the first thing that breaks down when you're dealing with teams like this is assignments. And if you get a lot of jet motion, and this is big for you, Evan, the Isaiah McKenzie, you get him moving around and you get guys confused to their, who their keys are, who they're covering. And, sometimes that leads to big openings downfield. And that's something that you saw that I didn't mention when we were talking about their defense is there's a lot of busted coverage and big plays. So, confuse these guys. Daboll hasn't used a lot of trick plays up until now, and so maybe we'll see a couple of those to confuse them. Moving on to the defense, Herm, give us your key to victory for the defense.
Well, I think, as I said earlier, shut down their run game first and foremost and force them into passing situations. And our defense as a unit has been extremely cohesive. I've said this a few times over the past few weeks. I feel our safety tandem is the best in the league. They don't get their props. Poyer's back, played well, and Hyde. They had an article in the Buffalo paper today that they feel Hyde is the best free safety that the Bills have had in their history. And I can pretty much, except for the first 4 or 5 years, attest to their history, and I would have to agree with them. So I think
Herm
right
confirms it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was an article in Buffalo paper today that they proclaim Mike Hyde as the best free safety in Buffalo Bills history. So I'm co-signing that one as a Bills fan since about 65. So the first 4 or 5 years, I was like you were when the Bills were in their heyday. I was a little bit older, but I wasn't on the scene yet. I hadn't gotten to Buffalo. But if we shut down that run game, force Tannehill into passing, and he gets that deer in the headlight look, I think it's our game for the taking, and convincingly.
Shut down the run. I like it. Evan, what's your key to victory for the defense?
I think that Tennessee is going to be a lot more careful with the ball compared to some of the teams that the Bills have played this year. So the key is going to be at what point do the Bills get that key turnover? I think Tennessee is going to turn the ball over maybe once. And let's just hope that it's not, at midfield in the middle of the second quarter when I don't know, when the game's tied or something. Not that that wouldn't be a big deal, but if you can get a key stop when they're down in the red zone, or you can pick a ball off when they're at their own 20-yard line, that would be much preferred over any other option. So I just think they're going to get a turnover. I just would like it to be at the perfect time.
Let's get another pick six or
Yeah.
strip sack fumble. I guess I'll go with the obvious. Pressure Tannehill. Just get him uncomfortable. Like Herm put it best. Deer in headlights. We were so accustomed to Tannehill being hot garbage in Miami, specifically when he played the Bills. Even in the games that they won, he's never really performed well. So last year's game versus Tennessee, that was another layer, of insult that was added to that game because he played great. There's no denying it. He played a hell of a game, and he got a little cocky and showboaty at the end, and I didn't like it. And I'm sure these players don't either.
Yeah.
And going into how we believe it's going to play out in predictions, I'll let that speak for itself. But I think that the defensive line is going to be licking their chops. I think we will blitz more than last year. I mean, you can't really, or last game against the Chiefs, can't really blitz any less than we did. I still think they'll rely on their front four because we do have to respect their passing game. And then I guess just something to add on to it is just making sure those linebackers don't get sucked up in the run all the time. I think that'll be key. Although, Evan, you alluded to their play action has not been as high, so hopefully we don't have to worry about that too much. Yeah. Herm, how's this game? How do you see it playing out? And then follow up with a prediction.
I see us coming out offensively. I've said this the last couple of weeks. I said it prior to the Kansas City game. I don't feel there's a defense in the league that can stop our offense when the offense is firing on all cylinders. And we talked about ascending. I think our offense, somebody told me this earlier in the week after the Kansas City game. I told them I think we should have put up 50 in that game. And they told me I say that every week. But my point, I do. But my point being, and you were there with me.
Not out of reality.
Yeah, watching the game. Okay, we score, and we get a fumble on the ensuing kickoff. We came away with no points on that one, if you remember. We took a holding penalty, a grounding penalty, and we came up empty. Right there, you left. Negative exactly. Yards. Right. So you left points on the board. There were, let's see, there's another situation, but I believe we can score on anybody. Now, as you used the word earlier, I love it, ragtag. The ragtag defense, even though Tennessee, they lost to the Jets a couple of weeks ago. So the Jets put up, 27, I think, or whatever the final score, 27-24 in overtime, but you lost to the Jets. So right now, I feel that we can put up a lot of points on them. We can hold them down. And you want my score? So that's how I'm finishing up this little. My score is 35-21, Buffalo.
Alrighty.
14-point win.
The Bills are going to get the ball first. They are going to score immediately. They're going to stop Tennessee on their first possession, score again, and then they can sort of realize that, okay, Tennessee can't afford to run the ball quite as much, and they won't have as much success on the play action. And then if they have to resort to straight dropbacks, I think the Bills will end up getting pressure on Tannehill. So because of that, I'm going to say the score ends up being 31-17.
Listen, you guys, I'll take those scores, but I think you guys are being too conservative. I don't know. This is the game I had circled on my calendar, and I've never been more confident.
I'm gonna practice what I preach and not predict 45-0 wins for the Bills every single week.
Fair enough. I believe the Bills will come out throwing at will. I think they'll score at will. I don't think there's anything. I think Tennessee will try to play coverage, and then just like a lot of other teams, just get frustrated and then start trying to send the house, and it's just you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And Allen will just end up picking apart this defense. And as you alluded to earlier, if they're not going to abandon the run. This is a team that will not abandon the run, but they will have to throw much more than they want, which renders their play action much less effective. So I'm going to go 45-17 Bills. I think it's just a big win.
45-17.
Herm will be sitting there telling me they could have scored 60.
Yeah, I would love to say that.
Well, you will.
45.
Don't you worry.
Hey, 45.
All right.
45.
Now everyone's favorite segment, the 5-day forecast. Last week, Evan, you're falling behind, man. You went 2 for 5.
Oof.
Me and Herm leveled off 3 for 5 each. I got saved by 1 rushing yard. They had like 121, and the Chiefs had 120. And then that penalty roughing the passer saved Herm.
Yeah.
That would have been the interception that we expected. And as it happened, I looked at Herm. I was like, it's just a long punt. But,
yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and then it's like, oh, okay. Well, it doesn't show up on the stat sheet.
Because
so
that Mitch Morris hold was bullshit. That was not a
Yeah. Well, and then the roughing the quarterback on us. I mean, he got him low. That was on. Who was Oliver?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not even. They're arguing over an 18-point loss. They're blaming the refs over.
Yeah.
You know?
Can I? Do we have time for me to go on like a solid 5-minute rant at the end of the show?
Maybe not 5 minutes, but you can get it in your final thought for sure.
Oh yes.
All right, Monday. Tannehill accounts for. Ready? Herm? Visualize it. Accounts for a combination of 5 or more sacks / turnovers. Is that
Cloudy.
Understood?
Yeah, cloudy.
Okay, you understood what I was going with, right?
Yeah, the combination of sacks and turnovers equaling 5.
Exactly. How about you, Evan?
I am going to go. I'm going to say Sunny on that one. Because I think
because I know I heard you saying 1 turnover, and I was like, well, then he probably thinks there's going to be quite a bit of sacks.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why is either they will resort to the play action a little bit, and the Bills will get pressure on those, or it's just the fact that I didn't predict 51-16, but I like his mindset.
Kenny, I like that too.
Yeah.
That's convincing.
Crap, where was I? Oh,
I
but
derailed you.
Yeah. Thank you. They don't. The Titans don't exactly have like a huge threat in the passing game at the running back position, so it's going to be harder for them to just sort of dump off passes if there's pressure quickly or if they blitz. So
their only success in the running game with passing is screen. They're a good screen team. I will give them that. I didn't mention
when they call design screens, yes.
Yeah,
but if there's like a checkdowns, because Henry just doesn't. He's not a passing game kind of guy. So, I think because of that, they'll end up getting 4 sacks at least.
Henry for Tuesday. Henry held under 70 rushing yards total. 69 or less.
Nice.
Cloudy.
So he'll have his biggest performance against the Bills, unless he gets 73.
Yeah, I'll give him if he gets 75 yards on 20 carries. I'll take it. Yeah.
What do you think,
Evan? I'll take that average.
I'm gonna go cloudy as well on that one. I think that this will be the time where he might. I think he's gonna have a good game. Like it's not just gonna be like a solely volume thing. But even if he doesn't have a good game, I could see him getting there solely on volume if that is the case.
Right.
Yeah, and get that one run that puts them over the edge. The thing is, the Bills are going to invite them to run. Don't make a mistake. They're going to focus on stopping the run, but the way they line up in their base defense is inviting the team to run. I mean, we invited Kansas City to run, and we said, well, you're not going to do it. So I'm going to stick with you guys, although I do, I don't like to always agree. I don't think you'll get over 100, but I think it'll be somewhere between 70 and 100. Wednesday, the Titans go for it on 4th down on their side of the 50. Keynote, they have a backup punter. What do you think, Herm?
On their side of the 50, which could be the 49.
Could be the 30 like the Chiefs or Houston. What did Houston go for?
The Texans, right.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go cloudy on that one. They don't want to give us field position.
You're living in the UK right now.
I am. Rainy.
What's up? What do you think, Evan?
I'm going to say sunny on that one. I understand like the field position argument, but the Bills' offense has been like so good that it's almost like at this point where it's like if you give them good field position, you kind of just go like, oh, well, they were going to score anyways, no matter where we gave them the ball. So just try to hold them to a field goal. Yeah.
Giving up a possession is far more dangerous than giving this team 30 yards. You're netting 40 yards, whatever they end up getting. So I'm with you. I'm going to go clear. I think on twofold because teams have been doing it against us. I mean, they haven't been successful unless we, accrued a penalty. Other than that, they've done it, and not having a starting punter could go into that decision as well. Herm, Thursday, Beasley has 5 or more receptions.
Clear.
Yeah.
Monday, you mean, not Thursday.
No, Thursday in the forecast.
Oh,
fourth question.
You say no. It's like you say Thursday to like trip us up so that we both get it wrong. That's an obvious clear.
It's all it is. It's an audible illusion.
Yeah.
That was five receptions, right?
Yeah.
No, I say clear.
Yes. What do you think, Evan?
On the Monday Night Football at 8:15, he will proceed to have at least 5 catches in that game. So clear.
Okay. I think it'll be a bounce back game. I'm curious to see what his snap count will be because that has definitely been a trend. We'll find out if it's game plan specific or what have you, because like I mentioned on the post game show, they said they had supreme confidence in him, but they also said that about Cody Ford. And you know who comes off the bench before Cody Ford? Ike Bucker. Finally, Friday, Herm, the Music City Miracle replays on the broadcast.
You're kidding.
I'm serious. Are they gonna show the stupid play?
Oh, of course. Of course. Oh yeah.
You're just giving us
clear.
That's a soft one. Yeah.
It's clear. Yeah.
I
mean, I would tell you this. You say there's things that piss you off. That one there, that one lives in infamy in my mind. Yeah. That's clear.
I think that's unanimous right there. Clear. All right. Before we get to our final. Oh, sorry. What did you say, Evan?
I'm like, thank you for mentioning that though, because that's something I need to bring up in our final thoughts.
Okay. Well, it's leading you up. But before we go, there was one from Kenny. Rousseau, 2 sacks and 5 tackles. What say you, Herm?
Yeah, clear. Could see that happening. Yeah.
It's a solid stat line.
I like that, Kenny.
What you think, Evan?
I'm going, I think that's feasible.
It is.
Yeah. That's something I wouldn't be confident enough in to like assign like a clear or cloudy thing to, but
yeah, I would say cloudy because I would just alter it a tad. It'd be 1.5 sacks and 5 tackles.
I freaking hate half sacks.
Yeah,
really.
Sack should not be a stat. I understand that, like, when more than one person gets
because then
them,
it opens up the door for a third of a sack.
yeah. Well, it's just the whole concept of like two guys beat their man and then get to the quarterback at the exact same time, and it's like, oh well, you don't get as much of a sack because your cohort on the other end also did his job.
You got to split it. You got to divide it.
Yeah.
It's equity. Yeah. Also, a shout out to Greg Rousseau in the run game.
Yes.
That's he's talk about setting the edge. It's great to see.
Also saw the wide receiver Greg Rousseau make an appearance.
Yeah.
That
should have been
good.
on the.
Those were good videos. Yeah,
that was a
good
deep dive
videos.
right there.
Yeah, that was a fun. That was a fun clip to see of his. Obviously, not something that would sustain very well in the NFL, because when you're 6'6" in high, or however tall he is in high school, you can kind of get by just by being tall.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Herm, before we get out of here, final thoughts.
My final thoughts are, I look back to last year when we had the back-to-back games against Kansas City and Tennessee. Here we are again, back-to-back in reverse order. We've taken care of business on that first, the first loss from last year. Now we have an opportunity against Tennessee, and both in Tennessee, and we have an opportunity to go to 5-1 on the bye week. And I think, as Evan said earlier, for back-to-back games, I think these are when we looked at the schedule initially, and now even as we move into the season, this may be the two toughest games we have back-to-back. And we're coming on, I think the Kansas City game gives us psychologically a great deal of confidence. The league has become aware of us. They were aware of us anyway. We were in the championship game, but I think they see us as a much, much more formidable opponent. We were number one in a bunch of power rankings, too. I don't think we are the top five in any that I saw. So we're a 5.5-point favorite on the road against a pretty good team. So I'm looking forward to us picking up this win, finishing out this week 6, 5-1, take the bye, and then we move on to, and one of my favorite terms, we move on into the riffraff section. And
We'll finish our revenge tour 2021
right.
And take a bye, and then, like you said, go into that easy part of the schedule. Evan, grace us with your monologue.
Okay, so this is 100% going to be brought up during the game, and it's perfect that you mentioned the Music City Miracle, the home run throwback, whatever the hell you want to call it, because this was a pretty big thing after the game against the Chiefs, and despite the fact that they won by 18 points, I mentioned this in the CFR chat. If I went on Twitter, and frankly, if I didn't know any better, I would think the Bills had lost, because people were just or Bills Mafia in particular, were talking about the refs. They were talking about Chris Collinsworth. They were talking about how the league hates the Bills, all these different kinds of things. And it gets to the point where it's very hard to tolerate, which sucks, because I want to go online, talk with people, enjoy that the Bills are doing well. So this is just sort of a heads up. And especially, I don't want to be doing this now because, with all the things that have come out about like the different emails that the NFL has been hiding and all that kind of things, I don't really want to defend the NFL. But just because they are going to inevitably show the most significant play in the history of Bills versus Titans does not mean that the network hates you. I hope you understand that, because I always see it. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say. It makes me mad whenever I see something like that.
You bring up an awesome point, because the Bills fans are insufferable on some occasions. Now, me and Herm were cussing out Chris Collinsworth the whole broadcast, but after the clock strikes 000, I could care less of what he said.
Yeah, thank you.
Talking you trash. You look like an idiot the more you keep talking. So I'm right there with you.
Well, even at the end of the game, he was like, I remember when it was on the call, I think it was the last Sanders touchdown. He was like, "Okay, he's the MVP.
Okay, he's the MVP." Yeah, it was
and it's like, I see some Bills guys like, "Oh, he just trashes Josh Allen 100% of the time." you just called him the MVP. Like, what do you?
In jest, though, so I understand it, but after you win, like, I don't care, whatever. Good, keep talking it.
Yeah, like it's
like Herm says, you put the game on mute and put some music on.
That's right.
I like this one. Our revenge tour is going to finish by beating the Cardinals in the Super Bowl.
I would like that, Maston Park.
The Cardinals last year was that meme of the guy in third place with the girl and the champagne, and he's shaking it and he's freaky. He's losing his mind. And it's like, dude, you just beat the Bills and then you went one and whatever to finish the rest of your season and miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I like that. I like that one though.
Yeah, I don't think the Cardinals will make it to the Super Bowl, but it would be nice.
I think the Cardinals are looking awfully good this year.
They are, but I
good.
don't. I think they're too young to win in the playoffs.
I don't know. Ertz is a good pickup for them.
Yeah, especially since Max Williams went down.
Ever since Ertz left the Bills, I mean, it's been a tough loss for us.
He will always be a Bills legend, Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
I mentioned last time in my final thoughts about how each year the Bills have, quote unquote, trust the process. And every year it was a new hurdle and we've always cleared it. And last night was last week was indicative of everything I kind of wanted to say. And it went as it should have, it's you make fun of the tropes. Everyone does, and the funny and the scary part is McDermott means it, and they follow through. I mentioned on a different show that there's like 18 players on this Bills defense that can fill in at any given time, and there's nothing, no loss. They're truly all players of the same defense. It's not just a backup who kind of has to figure it out. So going into this game, everyone talks about, oh, is it going to be a trap game? Are they going to come down? Are they going to, feel in themselves, so to speak? And the answer is unequivocally no. Can they lose? Of course, you can lose any given Sunday, but this is a team that will beat you any Sunday. They will beat this Titans team any Sunday because they are just better. They're better coached. They have more talent. They have the better quarterback. They have the better defense. So, like I've mentioned throughout this stream and on many other podcasts, this was the game I was looking forward to the most. And I not only do I want, but I objectively feel that the Bills are just going to wipe the floor and they're not going to give up. They're not going to let up. You're going to see Mitch in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth quarter, just like we did against Washington or against Houston and kind of Washington as well. But this is just another notch in the belt for this Buffalo Bills team. And, until next time, keep tuning in at the Cold Front Report. We'll do something for the bye week. I think we'll get a couple other guys in here and just kind of, do something fun. But until next time, everyone stay safe out there and go Bills.
Go Bills.